we create value in today's organizations has changed dramatically over the last couple of years. We have left the large factories behind where loads of people were doing the same thing day in and day out, and where the most important part for the leader was to basically organize these people. Today, we work in a large group of specialists who need to exchange knowledge with each other to be able to create value and innovation for the organizations that they work for. And for this reason, the role of the leader has changed. Today, the most important task for the leader is basically to help the team be self-navigating. And for this reason, in this episode, we will argue that the most important role of the leader is to continuously clarify the purpose and goals for the team, especially when the task is complex and has contradictory goals. To lead and facilitate the process of knowledge sharing, which is much harder than it sounds most often. Yep. To lead the decision processes and to act as a focal point for the team when the team is in what we call action mode as opposed to reflective mode.
The big change in being a leader today, if it used to be that you should be the one who know the best or at least the most, today the only thing you can be sure of in a modern complex organization is that you have all these specialists, you have all these people that know things that you don't know. So what would be and you need to know this, to accomplish the task. Yeah. So your job will be sort of to get all this knowledge together in a meaningful way. And this is why we argue that knowledge integration is perhaps the most fundamental part of being a leader today. There are of course other sides as well, but that's why we're looking at this.
Does that only mean to make sure that people are being heard and are being listened to? Is that what we're saying, that's the role of the leader?
No, that's too easy, right?
Yeah.
It's much more difficult. That's an important part. But you could put it this way, that if you're working in complex organizations, basically what you're trying to do as a leader is to get people to have as an advanced understanding of what they're doing as possible, because that will help them make the right decisions.
So, okay, what you were saying, you wanted to talk about what should the leader be doing?
Yeah. And the number one thing will be to clarify and come back to the purpose of why you're doing things at all. And the reason this is so important for teams today is because we do very complex things. It means we have lots of objectives that are relevant at the same time. And often some of these objectives are even contradictory. Yeah. So you need to talk a lot, because then people go out there, do things, they have to do their own activities and make their own decisions, working for the team. And they need to make all these judgment calls, right? So that's when they go back and listen to the purpose and the objective that has been stated.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's number one.
Yeah. And the second one is basically about leading and facilitating the process of knowledge sharing.
So I'm thinking, you Lotta, you're a management consultant. So you're basically making your living on knowledge integration.
Yeah.
Do you have a tool for that, or a specific method, or?
Well, I'd say that the best tool to use when you want to facilitate knowledge sharing is reflection.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, because it's the most simple and effective tool to make sure that all the thoughts and ideas in the room is being voiced and listened to.
Yeah, but that's kind of hard, isn't it, to get a good reflection out of it?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say that it's probably one of the most underestimated tasks that a leader performs.
In what way is it underestimated?
Okay, so imagine this.
Yeah.
You have a problem that you need to discuss, or some sort of innovative process that you're going to go through with your team.
Yeah.
And if you just let the discussion free, you ask the question, you just let the discussion go free. What most likely will happen is that the person who has the highest status in the room, or the person who thinks the fastest, will start talking.
Most impatient.
Yeah, or most impatient. That person will start talking first. And when that happens, the other people in the room, they cannot sort of finish the thoughts or ideas that they were starting to think.
Right.
So the result of this is that we lose out on intelligence. We get the intelligence from the first person who speaks, but the rest of
the other one's thinking is disturbed by the first one starting to talk.
So what you need to do as a leader in this situation is make sure that you have a sort of structured way of hearing all the thoughts and ideas in the room.
Right.
And the way you would do that, if you're going to lead a structured reflection, this is where the tool comes in. The way you do that is you ask the question, and then you make sure that everyone gets a few moments to think about their answer.
On their own.
On their own, without talking, and then you start listening. And you listen to one person at a time, and you make sure that you do not go into discussion mode or anything during this time. It's just one person talking, the others listening, and making sure that people are focused on listening, not trying to disturb what people are saying by hostile body language or something, just listening.
Focusing on listening. Right, Lotta, that was good about reflection, but there is one thing I would like to add to that.
Okay, what's that?
Well, it's this: if you ask people to reflect, you need to, frame what they're supposed to reflect or think about, right? And this is really important, because if you think about it, you can't make it too wide, because then people will, think about lots of things that aren't perhaps that relevant. But you can't make it too narrow either, because then you risk cutting off good thoughts, important things. So this is actually really difficult to find the right level. But I would also like to emphasize, though, that it's also so important. Often this is where the battle is won. Probably, if you're good at this, the result will be confusion. Because what happens if you have a good framing, you get people to think about lots of different things, and you want that. But then when they start listening to each other, they don't see the pattern, they don't see the structure, and they think, oh, we're going to deal with all this and so on.
And people get worried and
stressed. They get worried, they get stressed by that.
So
here you have a job as a leader to just, calm things down by organizing it, sorting, summarizing what is said, and create sort of a structure to deal with how you're going to talk about this later on. So that's also, your job as a leader, probably, to do this.
And then what would happen after this, most likely, is that you would go into a decision process. And then the leader's role would also be to facilitate and lead that decision process. And then I'd like to move into the last thing that we wanted to discuss today, what happens basically after the reflection has been made and the decisions has been made. Because the team will then be in a state where the individuals are going to act on their own. They need to make their own decisions, and they're in this acting mode that we have been talking about. And what they need when they're in that sort of part of the process is to have a focal point that they can go back to. And it's the leader's responsibility to be that focal point, so that they can always return to the team.
Okay, so what we've been trying to do in this episode is to give you an idea of what are the fundamental things a leader needs to do to ensure a good knowledge integration in a team, so that the team members' knowledge become accessible to the other team members and get to the best use, right? And what we're saying is that, first of all, continuously clarify the team's purpose. Because often the objectives will be contradictive, so you need to come back to that. Second, framing what is being discussed and ensuring that people are actually listened to. They get a chance to think what they want to say, and then they're listened to. And after that, you need to sort and summarize things to organize what has been said. Then you will have to make decisions, right? So you organize the decision process, and that should be as visible as possible to the team. And finally, when all this is made, people know what to do. You're the focal point of the team. So you need to be the one that the others can come to when they need to, send or get information.